Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Harlan's virtual book tour. We were really excited about this. I was really excited that you were coming to Scottsdale, Harlan, but I guess this is our next best shot, right?
Yeah, believe me, I'd rather be in Scottsdale.
I don't have any actual books to hold up tonight because our books are all on their way to you in New Jersey. Thank you. There it is. So I mentioned
Always
that.
willing a copy of my own book. Handy, just in case I need to read it.
You're so prepared. Well, thank you for agreeing to sign all of ours tomorrow and shipping them back to us so people can watching this will be able to get a signed copy, which will be great. So I was thinking, Harlan, you and I have done this gig together virtually. 1989, I opened the Poison Pen. 1990, you published your first book, Play Dead, and another one,
Yep.
Miracle Cure, in 91. And then there was a little gap before we got Myron in 1995. What were you doing?
Trying to come up with some way of improving my career. Play Dead and Miracle Cure, I received, I think, advances of around 2,000 US dollars. And it was a small publishing house, and I realized I had to make a move. And so I went back to the drawing board and thought about it for a while. I actually did write another standalone between those. One day I'll have to find that in my closet. And that's when I came up with the idea for Myron Bolitar, and sort of started to reinvent myself.
I was going to ask you why you thought that a retired basketball player sports agent would be a really cool hero. And then I did a little research and I realized that you actually are in the New England Basketball Hall of Fame because of your playing career at Amherst College. So you were actually writing what you knew.
Well, yes and no. I wasn't a great basketball player. I think I'm in the New England Basketball Hall of Fame. They put me in the category of scholar athlete, which I think means you were neither a scholar or an athlete. I sometimes brag that I was an All-American basketball player. What I leave off of that sentence was I wasn't picked All-American by Sports Illustrated or Sporting News. I was picked All-American by the Jewish Post and Opinion of Indianapolis. Yep, I'm a Jewish All-American basketball player. They found 5 of us who played that year, I guess, and made a team. So I did know basketball. I played college basketball. I really, wasn't close to making the next level. So here we are, writing books instead, which I in my case, I think was very lucky.
It was lucky. A sports agency. You won for these Myron Bolitar early ones. You won the Seamus Award, an Anthony Award, Edgar Award. The Seamus goes to people who have an interesting hero in that he can't be a professional law enforcement person.
Right.
And I found it interesting that they allowed a sports agent to sort of classify as a private eye. Did you have a discussion with them about that?
I think maybe I begged. No, I don't. I think it was controversial for some people because they were picking just private eyes, I think. But around that era, I think they were also coming to the realization that there was going to be a category for not just they were either cops or private eyes. And now there's this new category, which I think was starting to come together a lot around when Myron Bolitar was first coming out, which was 1995, for someone in between. Myron's not exactly a professional, but he's not exactly a private eye. He's somewhere in between, and so they let him in. I'm not exactly sure how the rules work. You have to ask Grandisi, but I was happy to be there.
Of course you were. Why Myron Bolitar? It's an interesting name. Is there another hero in crime fiction called Myron?
No, the thing was when I was creating Myron, I thought he was going to be pretty cool. I thought he was going to be this kind of slick, very, clever, coordinated, smooth dude. And I said, wow, you know what? I'll give this guy a kind of a nerdy name. So Myron's kind of, I think of as a nerdy name. You have a Myron that's sitting there? Is that why you're looking over? So I figured Myron sounds like a dork, or like a geek. And I'm named Harlan, so it's not like I'm insulting anybody. And of course, what ended up happening is Myron wasn't so cool or smooth or whatever else, and maybe fit that name better than I had originally expected. And the word Bolitar is just one I made up. I really don't remember how or why. I mean, sometimes you look for a a magic formula, but I don't really remember. Something to do with when I had just been to Egypt and I visited the tombs of Hachi Bolitar, I think, and the Bolitar art must have stuck in my head. I don't know.
So, and the Bolitar, I keep wanting to call him Bolivar. It must be in South America here.
It was not necessarily a name to call him, but yeah.
And the reason I was looking up there is I can see, it looks more like I'm having a conversation with you looking at the screen than if I'm looking at the laptop. But anyway, you've added people to the Bolitar universe. Wynn, for example, Esmeralda. Did they just come along and then stick?
Well, Wynn was there from the first moment I started to create the series. I wanted a sidekick. I've always loved sidekicks in fiction. Going back to the days of Sherlock Holmes and Watson, or Captain America and Bucky, who I grew up on, or Batman and Robin, Spencer and Hawk, of course. So I wanted to give Myron that kind of friendship, that sort of relationship. So I started to think about who I wanted his sidekick to be. I didn't want the tough black guy that had been done by Robert Parker. I didn't want the computer nerd. So I started to think about it, and I have my college roommate, who has a name equally obnoxious to Windsor Horn Lockwood III, was a real preppy boy at Amherst College. Family came over in the Mayflower. And before we would go to parties, when we were in college, he would look in the mirror and go, "It must suck to be ugly." So I took my friend, who I'm still is my best friend today. No one would have thought that I would be friends with this guy. In the same way Myron and Wynn you wouldn't think would be friends. And I tweaked him a little bit, and now we have Wynn. One of the funny parts about that is a few years ago I was telling the story at a book signing in New York, and Wynn was actually there. So at the end I said, I don't want to tell you who he is, but the real Wynn is actually in this room. It took the crowd about 4 seconds to figure out who he was, since he's blonde hair, wearing a blazer with a Lily Pulitzer tie. And he had a longer line for signing books than I did. So that's how Wynn came about. The other characters came about a little slower. I needed someone in the office. Originally it was Big Cindy, and an early reader, who was female, by the way, said to me, "You need a babe in the office." So I invented Esperanza. And a couple books later, when they needed more help in the office, Big Cindy was already in my subconscious, knocking at it, and then she just popped in. So it's kind of been a fun universe for me, and people have been added and subtracted along over the course of 11 books, so since 1995. And it's been really fun to see the crowd reaction. And to answer the next question, no, I don't think I'm done with them. In fact, I have a surprise, not too far in distance future, that will be very different from what people expect, but our boys will be back.
That's wonderful to hear, because one of the many questions we've had is, will there be another? I mean, the last one was what, Home in 2016? Is that right?
Yeah, it's not that long. 2016 or 17, I didn't remember. I think it was maybe September 2016. I think. I'm not sure. I'm bad with dates. But yes, not that long ago. Really not that long ago. 3 books ago.
And so another question before we talk about any of your other TV triumphs, is there anything in the works for Myron in terms of serial television or film?
Not really. I mean, I shouldn't. Yes and no. There's always talk. There's things that are going on. I never really. I've learned over the years, and as you know, Barbara, because you were with me back in 2000, when you and I were having dinner. And I got the call when Tell No One was first sold to be a big American film. And it was the most money I'd ever seen in my life, and it was a life-changing moment. You and I were dining together. You remember?
Not only do I remember, but what I remember is it wasn't one phone call, Harlan. It was a phone call, and then we'd eat a little, and then the phone would ring again. Every time your eyes got bigger and bigger, and your voice went up. And it was like I knew that was some kind of fabulous rising bid or auction going on right there while we were sitting there.
There was 2 or 3 studios bidding on Tell No One in 2000, and of course they never made the movie. And 3 years later, I gave it to Guillaume Canet in France, and it became a movie I'm very proud of, Tell No One de la Dia Personne, which, by the way, if you're sitting at home doing nothing and you've already seen the TV shows, Tell No One is on, I know Amazon has it and some other people have it. You could watch it for $2.99 or whatever else. It was Guillaume Canet made a really great French film of it. So I'm very proud of it. My point being that I've had things close a million times over the years, and every writer you've ever had in your store tells the same stories. And so until we start filming it, or until it gets what we call greenlit, I never talk about it. There's always a chance for Myron. I'm not pushing Myron as much as I'm happy with the other stuff I'm doing. But, you know, I said today, someone asked me the odds, and I said, I'd say 70% chance that a Myron series comes out in the next 2 or 3 years. Who knows? I don't know.
I'm going to segue here for a minute and ask you, because I was going to save this to later. Why is it you think the French are so fascinated with turning your books into film? Because they've done two. They did Tell No One and Second Chance when nobody else was doing you.
And they also did Just One Look, actually, with an actress named Virginie Ledoyon, who people may remember if they ever saw The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio. She was the lead woman in that. And No Second Chance and Just One Look were 6-episode miniseries in France. I don't know. The French are smarter than us, maybe? No, it's just, why does Jerry Lewis do so well there? Or I don't know how they picked their people. I was really lucky. I sell a lot of books over there. I had a great time making things there. So right now I have 3 series that have been done in Britain, 3 in France. 1 is now done in Poland, and 1 is now done in Spain.
One in Germany.
Next one will be one in Germany. Jeez, I forgot my German show. There we go. So I go where the talent is or where they want to have me. So I'm also very proud. I'm also one of the few authors you'll have that does not complain about at all my series and my adaptations. I'm happy with so far every one of them, which is hard for anybody to say.
Well, you've been a showrunner, and now I get a chance to ask you one more question before we actually talk about the book we're here to talk about, The Boy from the Woods. What does an executive producer actually do?
Well, it depends on the situation. The next TV series that I'm having on Netflix is called The Woods, based off my book, The Woods. Not The Boy from the Woods, The Woods.
The Woods.
And The Woods was made in Poland. I was an executive producer, but my role was less than it was certainly on the English language shows. So for the most part, my role was rereading scripts, commenting on story. I looked at all the edits before they were done, commented on those, approved the actors, things like that. The British series, because I speak English, it's sort of everything. I mean, I looked at 300 audition tapes. I met with Richard Armitage before he took the role. I wrote a personal letter to Jennifer Saunders to get her to take the role. I'm at every table read. Every morning I get what we shot the day before, and we comment on it heavily in the editing, heavily in the writing room, outlining the show. A lot of people maybe know this by now, but my daughter Charlotte, who is 25 years old, wrote episode 5 of The Stranger. She also came up with a lot of the dialogue for the teenagers, the younger people, because she's a little better at that than some of us old timers in the show. So yeah, I do a lot more with those. Showrunner means boss. So I partner with a woman named Nicola Schindler of Red Productions. And by the way, again, if you're looking for new things to watch, she also did Happy Valley, which is a wonderful crime drama on Netflix. She did Last Tango in Halifax, Queer as Folk, Years and Years, Scott and Bailey. A lot of the British fans will know all of those shows, Cucumber. So that's how it works. In every country I have the different partnerships, and I love to work with them.
I could hazard that the reason you're happy with it as compared to how some other authors feel about their film adaptations is because you are so involved. You didn't,
yeah,
some authors...
I say, blame me. Blame me. If you don't like something about it, it's fair enough. I want to take the blame or the credit, take the credit, if you will. It's a much more collaborative process, obviously, a TV show versus a book. I compare it like if you win a championship as the book, it's like being a tennis or golf champion. You celebrate alone, you stand there, you hold the trophy yourself, and that's immensely satisfying. But after all these years doing that, it's been really fun to be sort of what I think of as a captain of a team or a coach of a team, and you really want all of your players to do well, and you hope for the best for them, and you hope all of their careers are better for working with you.
So let's go back. You wrote a number of Myron Bolitars, and then one day you got a really great idea that didn't fit Myron, and that inspired you to write Tell no one. Does that
Yeah.
A series is wonderful in terms of the audience that it can build and the revisit, with old friends and all the rest of it. But as a writer, and particularly a writer like you who likes plot twists and unexpected things and exploring suburban New Jersey and so forth, it can't always be a Myron. You've now written many more standalone novels than you wrote Myron novels. Do you find that having gone back and forth, that it strengthens either one, or do you switch into some other gear when you're writing a standalone versus a Myron?
Well, first of all, I don't choose which one I'm going to write. It chooses me. I come up with an idea first, and then I sort of ask the question, who's going to tell the story? To stay on message, if you will. So the idea for The Boy from the Woods came to me when I was taking a hike through the woods. I hate hiking. I'm a Jewish guy from New Jersey. I'm hiking in the Ramapo Mountains, which are actually in New Jersey, but after a while, it's just trees. I'm looking for a coffee shop or a bookstore to wander through, or at least window shop. So I'm getting bored, and I notice a little boy, probably around 5 or 6 years old, walking by himself, and I start to think, what if? That's all fiction writing, by the way, what if? What if a boy came out of these woods, and he swears he knows no life before it? He claims he broke into houses to get food, or he ate off the land, or whatever. No one ever claims him. No one knows about his parents. No one knows where he's from. He just comes, he's the boy from the woods. And what if 30 years pass and he still doesn't know? And now another kid goes missing in the woods. So that was the seed that became The Boy from the Woods. Now, the question I ask is, who's going to tell this story? In this case, it's both Wilde, who is the boy from the woods, and Hester Crimstein has been in a number of my books. Obviously, Myron Bolitar can't be the boy from the woods. So unless I decide that he's going to be the one finding the boy, it's not a Myron book. So that's how I kind of decide which I'm going to write, and why I can never say for sure, yes, Myron's coming next or not. I just don't know until I come up with the idea.
I love the idea. Are you just sort of cruising about and things come to you, whether you're walking in the woods or driving your car or strolling down the streets in New York? Or that's how it works.
Yeah, but you know, it's not like that. My mind works like that 24/7. So for every idea that I end up taking seed, it's like dropping seeds all over the place. For every seed I throw, maybe 1 in 1,000 ends up taking root. I do that for 2 or 3 months wherever I go. I never stop. And fiction writing is always asking what if. If there's a tip I can give those who are trying to write fiction, I actually put this on my Twitter the other day for people who are staying at home and trying to write down the words what if. And just keep asking them. Mary Higgins Clark used to talk, may she rest in peace, one of my great friends and one of my favorite people in the world. She also had the what if technique of trying to get an idea. So you just take anything. I mean, every one of my books is a what if. What if your wife had died, you was murdered, and then you see her all of a sudden walking on a street camp? What if a teenage girl, you promise a teenage girl that if she's ever drunk, she can call you, and you'll pick her up, and one day you pick her up, and when you drop her off, no one sees her again? What if? That's how every one of the book starts.
One of the questions that is frequently asked here of the many authors that visit us is, do you know the end when you start writing? With you, do you know the end and you're writing the book towards it, but you don't necessarily know the entire path as you move along?
That's pretty much exactly. I know the beginning and the end. I compare it to driving from my home state of New Jersey across the country to LA. I may take Route 80, which is the direct route, but chances are I'll go via the Suez Canal or stop in Tokyo. But I pretty much always end up in LA. I don't really know how I'm going to get there, but I always manage to get there. The other favorite quote that I love to talk about with writing is E.L. Doctorow, who said that writing is like driving at night in a fog with just your headlights on. You can only see a little bit in front of you, but you can make the whole journey that way. I know the ending. So in the case of this book, though, I'll tell you the truth. I knew all the twists at the end, but there's a moment at the very, very end when Wilde has to make a decision about his own life, literally on the last page.
Right.
And while I thought I knew what he was going to do, I was not sure he was going to do it until I actually wrote it. I went into the last 2 chapters saying, is he or isn't he going to do this? And I found it out sort of with him, which is rare. Usually I do know ahead of time.
Actually, it wasn't even
That
the
doesn't.
last. I'm not going to give it
Did
away.
it,
All I was going to say was
it's
it's not
person.
even the last page. It's like the last 4 sentences. So,
Yeah.
I thought you really saved it to the end. On my way down here, I was thinking about suburbs. I grew up in the North Shore of Chicago. I grew up in the suburb of Winnetka. And I can give you a generation, but when I was a kid, riding my little Schwinn bicycle, age 8, out into the Forest Preserve and the Skokie Lagoons and all, the one question that never occurred to me was, this would be a great place to hide a body. And I wonder right then, if that separates me from a fiction writer, and that's why I'm a bookseller and you're a writer, because you probably would have been on your bicycle, snaking your way along the river, going, there's a body.
I wasn't that morbid as a kid, but I always had a sense of sort of more adventure. I mean, even though I grew up in New Jersey, there was woods not far from my house. There was a water reservation that I would wander through, though you weren't allowed to. And I was a big wanderer as a kid. And as I did it, it was almost more in a Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer type way, where I kept expecting bad guys to kind of jump out and figure out ways of defeating them, and then I myself would be in peril, which is maybe why I also write very often that sort of ordinary man or woman in the extraordinary circumstance. I did, though, I was fairly active in terms of my imagination and making stuff up in my head. I was not a writer as a kid. I hate that nonsense. I hate when we have the writer, and I know you've spoken to so many of them, but the one who goes, I always knew I'd be a writer. When I was a 3-month-old fetus, I started writing with a pen in my mother's womb. And then when I was 5 years old, the children gathered around me in the playground as I told them pirate tales. In my neighborhood, you got beaten up, and I didn't grow up in a tough neighborhood. So I didn't have that stuff, but my mind always kind of worked in my imagination I was good at, and sort of storytelling. And also logic. I was a much better math student than an English student, which I think helps with plotting. I think I found that with a lot of writers, especially doing crime fiction when they're younger, they're actually fairly good at solving word problems and math problems and that sort. Math word problems, I should say, like SAT kind of math stuff. And maybe that's it. I don't know.
So here's a question I threw out to some thriller writers that were here recently. There have been actually quite a few of them until everything has come to a halt and we're doing it this way.
Well, I was on my way.
Do you think that a thriller has to have a murder? Because a thriller really is a contest, or a protagonist and an antagonist, and it's a thing about who will win. Do you always have to have a dead body in your books?
I'm trying to think. Does The Boy from the Woods have a dead body? And maybe eventually, but certainly not in the first 200 pages. Maybe somebody gets killed, but that's not what it is. It's a kid who disappears. Right. As you know, because you've read me for years, I prefer disappearances to murders. So I would say definitely no on that one. And I guess I'm proof. Tell no one also. The wife, vanished. People are murdered, usually bad guys or whatever else. But no, I don't think you need to have a dead body. A mystery, maybe. A thriller. No, and I hate that terminology. I don't know what it is. Crime fiction, mystery, thriller. And the one that annoys me the most, the literary crime novel. I hate that one. If you're sending me, by the way, your book to read, like for an arc or for a blurb, if you say you're writing a literary crime thriller, I don't read it. I put it down. What you're trying to then say is, it's like a mystery, but it's really well written, while other ones aren't. That's nonsense. Just write what you want to write. Don't have to called by any kind of genre name. I hate that stuff.
There's been a big revival of interest in, not a revival, I'm being redundant. The classic crimes have come back into production and people reading them. And there are a lot of Golden Age mysteries that did not have murders. Dorothy Sayers has a great one about somebody withholding thyroid, to keep somebody captive. You can have a jewel robbery, you can have a kidnapping. And I think we've sort of fallen I think we've fallen into this thing where there has to be a murder, but I think that there's a lot of other interesting crimes, as you say, disappearances and so forth, that you can explore without having to actually
Yeah.
kill anybody. So that's good. Patrick, you have been getting questions, right? So maybe this would be a great time to ask Harlan some questions.
Well,
By the way, this shirt, in case people are wondering, this crowd's old enough to know what that is, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a vinyl?
That's from the old days when we had 45s. You stuck that so you can play it on a record player.
Are you a vinyl guy?
All right. Someone was asking me, like tweeting me saying, what is that shirt you're wearing? That's what the shirt is. Okay, go ahead.
Most of these are actually just comments, people, saying how much they like your books. But there is one from a gentleman asking you if the pandemic that's going on right now is giving you any ideas for fiction.
No, I gotta be honest with you, not at all.
Not really.
Reality doesn't help me sometimes. I don't really want to be the one writing about this, and I just hoping everybody's gonna be as okay as possible. But I'm not right now. And I always say this, though. I should point out that just because it's not in my head now, and I'm already halfway through the next book, and there's no pandemic. But then sometimes it sneaks in weird ways. When 9/11 happened here, not to get all serious, I didn't write about 9/11 for years afterwards. I just couldn't. It was too scarring. We lost too many people around here. But it still found its way in the book. The same way if you're writing a book that takes place in 1970, you may not mention the Vietnam War, but it's always there. So if I'm writing contemporary novels, which is what I do, I write novels that are taking place right now in this day, there'll probably be some sort of afterglow from this thing.
Right.
We'll find out.
And I've had several questions asking about The Stranger, about that whole experience on Netflix and how that was. And can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Those who don't know, I have here this is The Stranger, the new edition you can buy in paperback.
Over here.
The Stranger's on Netflix now, 8 episodes long, based off the novel. It's a thrill. If you actually put in, this is weird, but if you go to netflix.com/Harlan Coben, all 3 of the shows that I've done in England are on Netflix right now. The Stranger, Safe, and The Five. Safe and The Five are not based off novels. They're based off original ideas of mine, but The Stranger is. So I signed a deal maybe a year and a half ago with Netflix that kind of gives them the rights. We partner to make on all the standalones pretty much, except the ones already being taken by somebody else. So our hope is that we're going to make a lot in a variety of countries. It was signed by Netflix International. The first of which was The Stranger, the new deal. The Stranger's the first. The second will be The Woods, which is filmed in the Netflix Poland. And the third will be The Innocent, which is filmed right now, being filmed. Well, they're suspending it, but Netflix Spain, with Oriol Paulo directing and Mario Casas starring. Which, not to give another plug, but if you're looking for a great movie on Netflix, look up Oriol Paulo. He has a couple that he directed. One called The Uninvited Guest is really great thriller, really classic twists and turns all the way through. So if you don't mind watching subtitles, which you shouldn't because you're a mature person, and you read because you're watching this, that's another good movie. So that's my deal with Netflix. I hope to be making more with them. We did very well with The Stranger, so we'll have the option sort of making A Stranger season 2 or do another book. My guess is I will choose another book because I don't like season 2s. I don't like when it's forced. If I could come up with an idea as good for season 2, I'll do it. But if not, I'm willing to let it go and make it and continue it as miniseries or limited series.
A couple more.
Anybody have any questions about that? I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, a couple more here. We have April wants me to remind everybody that Coben's Cuties are watching. And
they came to the store.
Yeah.
They were wearing shirts saying Coben's Cuties, wearing a Myron Bolitar basketball jersey.
I remember that.
So hi, April. How are you?
And then Danielle wants to ask, do you always make a cameo in your Netflix series, or was the first one in The Stranger? It's kind of a Hitchcock moment.
Yes, I had done them in a lot, so I skipped it in Safe, and now I think I'm going to stop because it becomes sort of like distracting, I think. I wasn't really happy with this, doing it for The Stranger. I didn't do it for The Woods. I'm not doing it for The Innocent. Maybe I'll do it again. The most fun one I got to do was No Second Chance in France. I got to play the actress Dana Delaney, who was in Desperate Housewife and China Beach. Dana Delaney and I played a married American couple in the last episode. And we had a blast filming in Marseille for a week. So that was great. But I certainly won't do it every time. No, I've already skipped it once, so I'll probably skip it again. If you watch The Five, however, watch closely in episode 9 and don't blink and you might see me.
Let's see here. Lisa asks, will your next book be a Myron book or a standalone?
He's kind of
I can't answer that yet. The answer might be neither, but we'll find out soon. I never talk about the book I'm working on now.
How about Mickey Bolitar? Are those fun books to write? How did you get started writing those?
Well, Mickey Bolitar, for those who don't know, is my young adult series. It's a trilogy, starting with a book called Shelter. Mickey is sort of like Myron, but he's 16 years old in high school. Part of the reason I wanted to write them was my kids were around that age. I thought it'd be fun. And I really love the Mickey Bolitar series. And what I found is most adults really love them, too, more than I kind of expected, which was really, really fun and wonderful. They're hard to write, though. I thought they'd be easier to write than the adult novels, and they're not. And so I got to choose one or the other, and I kind of got rid of that. So I don't think Mickey will be back in that form. In the book Home, the most recent Myron Bolitar novels, Mickey, Ema, and Spoon, who are the lead characters in the young adult series, move into the adult world, Myron's world. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some overlap that way. I don't think I'll be writing any more books specifically for young adult or specifically for Mickey Bolitar.
So, Harlan, have you had any tweets that you would like to answer while we're talking?
I don't, because I'm so bad at computers. My thing just went off, so I completely lost. Right, I lost. I see Hart Hansen, though, is watching us. If Hart is still there, Hart Hansen, for those who don't know, is the creator of the TV series Bones, based on Kathy Reich's books, and one of the most talented TV guys I know. And he said, I don't know if it's true, he said he was going to watch this naked. So, Hart, if you're doing that, stop.
Can I add? I'm going to add a plug for Hart because he wrote, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. He wrote an absolutely terrific novel.
Yeah, The Driver.
The Driver, thank you. And I've been hoping that he would write another one, but so far no luck.
I think he is. Hart, text me or whatever if you are, and we'll plug it here. So, no text from Hart, so he's being modest.
Okay. I have a couple of other questions, one of which is, I know that you love to make stuff up, and that's your primary writing tool. But if you actually need some kind of technical information, who do you go to? Have you found that people like to share their expertise with you when you say you're writing a book?
Yeah, pretty much. I usually feel free to call. I always find, look, I think I told you before, I'm a very lazy researcher. And I actually recommend it. I'm one of the few writers who will recommend being a lazy researcher. I know a lot of the writers you know are wonderful researchers. They do a ton of work. If I'm writing historical fiction like Sharon Newman or someone like that, or the late Philip Kerr, I would certainly be doing it, but I'm not. I'm writing contemporary stuff. So I make it up. And then I find the answers out later. The reason why I don't recommend you do a lot of research if you're writing contemporary novels is researching is more fun than writing. So you'll spend all the time researching as an excuse not to write. So I never do that. I'm always worried about the story, and then I'll worry exactly what kind of gun it is later, what kind of, the law procedure later on. But normally I'll call a lawyer, I'll call a DA, either a friend or somebody I know. You know so many people, Barbara. I've gone to you before for contact information for certain things. And people are always willing to talk to you. And also that's where you get the interesting little tidbit from talking to people, the stuff that's not in a book, that one little detail about what their job is that makes it feel real. And you're not, the other thing is when people do a lot of research, they feel like they got to throw it in the book, and then it makes the book kind of slow down and be boring. I'm not giving you a dissertation on whatever I'm writing about. I'm telling you a story. So I'm recommending to the new writers out there that they do less research, not more.
You know, you remind me in saying that we're still recovering here from losing Clive Cussler, who we've been his home bookstore for almost 30 years. And Clive never, ever lost sight of the fact that he was writing to entertain people. He never, claimed any sort of literary excellence or whatever. He just loved telling stories and entertaining people. And I think you are of a similar bent. That's what you're doing, is entertaining people, right?
I'm not giving you research. Just put it that way. If you want to learn something like detailed on how the boat works, I'm not your guy. That's other people.
How do you feel about short fiction?
I love short fiction. In fact, I just did a tweet on, I'm trying to help people. I'm recommending books to people so they could, to read now. And I recommended 3 short story collections that were not crime fiction ones. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of short fiction crime. I like short fiction because it doesn't necessarily have to get into a complicated story. For me, it's more of a snapshot. The one I mostly recommend is Alyssa Chappelle's Blueprints for a Better Girl. But also Curtis Sittenfeld had a great collection out last year. Elizabeth McCracken. Those are 3 of the ones I recommended recently. I love short fiction, but not necessarily crime. Some, but I don't read a lot of crime short stories.
How about writing it yourself?
If you want to send them, I'll be happy to read them. I've got nothing else to do.
Okay. Any other questions, Patrick? We
Yeah.
might have 1 or 2 more filtered in before we sign off.
Sure. Lisa asks, how did it feel having a cameo in Stephen King's book, The Outsider? Did you know in advance, or was that a surprise?
That was literally one of the biggest thrills of my life. Can I be honest? It was really thrilling. So I'll tell you the story of it because it's kind of funny. So Stephen King actually writes me an email saying, I want to use you as a character in my new book. Do you mind? Like, I'm going to say no, right? So I wrote him back saying, not only don't I mind, it's one of the great honors of my life because I want to send you an early copy, by electronically, just to make sure you're okay with how you're portrayed. I'm like, portrayed? So he sends me a copy of the book, and being an egomaniac, I immediately searched for my name, right? And it says 63 mentions. So I'm a whole alibi, and it's a book signing and all of that. So I was like, Steve, not only don't I mind, this is one of the most, I grew up, I don't want to make him sound old, but as I told him, from the age of, say, 16 to 25 especially, I'm not sure about anybody but Stephen King. So it was a tremendous thrill. I was angry that I was not in the TV adaptation. Because I actually said to Steve when I heard there was going to be a TV adaptation, I'm like, Steve, I can play me. I can be me. And he said, I'm not sure you can be convincing as you. So here we go. By the way, as most people know, he's a wonderful and generous guy. He's always helping other authors. He's an example of one of those authors who knows, as I try to do myself, and I know most of my colleagues try to do, we try to send the elevator back down as much as possible. He's been very, very generous to a lot of authors over the years.
I can say that truthfully, one of the few regrets of our book-selling career so far here at the Poison Pen is that we haven't had Stephen King here. Only a few that we have missed. I was Dick Francis. I would have killed to have Dick Francis here. But I have to say that I'm still living in hope that one day Stephen King might actually venture west. Anything else?
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Actually, this lady's been waiting. There's a nice lady, Jenna Stacy, who's watching with her young daughter, and we always like to encourage young people to read. Her daughter's name is Rachel. If you could say hi to Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. I hope I haven't said anything. I haven't said any curses, have I? My language has been okay, because sometimes I can be. Rachel, it's nice to meet you. I'm so glad you're interested in reading. Let your mom read the book, so leave her alone. I don't know how old you are. If you're old enough to read it, share it with mom. Or have mom read it out loud to you. But thank you for joining us tonight. That's really nice of you.
Let's see here.
We can call it. What's that?
That's about it, really.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Bill, you want to tell people how to get the book from your barber?
People
by the way, just so I can say one thing, Poison Pen Bookstore in Scottsdale, Arizona, if this is the first time you're visiting their page, one of the truly great bookstores in the country. I've been going to Barbara's store. God, Barbara, how long? Early 90s, I guess, since you were
28
there.
years.
Yeah, I've been going to your store for a long time. It's a legendary store. Every crime writer who knows it. My friend Nils Lofgren of the East Street Band frequents there all the time. You might bump into him when you go and visit. And I'm always encouraging anybody, if you live in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, go there. But they also have one of the best, probably the best shipping businesses around. They get everybody to sign first edition. So, Barbara, you can take it from there. There's my plug. You can take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harlan. All anyone needs to do is go to poisonedpen.com, POISONEDPEN.com. Go to our web store and type in the name of Harlan's book, and magically a page will appear, and you can click on it and order it. You can also order the audiobook, and Libro FM is giving the revenue from audiobooks to bookstores, which I think is a great thing. Let me also say that this is the first virtual book launch that we have done in the face of this new, sorry, do I need to
watch the camera.
Sit up taller? Oh,
Speak
watch
to the camera.
Sorry, I'm watching that. But we have also lined up some other authors, and I'm sure Harlan will be happy to share a plug with them. James Rollins, which will be probably next Monday for his pub date. Kathy Reichs on March 26th, her first Tempe Brennan since 2015. Don Winslow is going to debut his new short story collection, Broken, here on April the 6th.
Cara Black.
Cara Black on April 14th. Jack Carr with a boost from Mark Graney. We haven't figured out how to incorporate Mark yet, but we're going to work it out. On April 13th, Julia Spencer Fleming, I think, on the 9th. C.S. Harris on the 8th. If there are other authors who would really like to speak to their fans who don't have a chance to do it because book tours have been canceled, please email the store. You can email me, Barbara@poisonedpen.com. We'd be happy to set up a similar event for you. All of our staff can do this. It doesn't have to be me. And we really would like to support all authors who are anxious to meet their fans and can't find a really good channel to do it at the moment.
Barbara, one last thing. Did you? I know for my book tour this time, I'm donating all author proceeds to local charities, and I know you. Which one did you guys pick? I forget which one I saw.
Well,
do you remember?
It might sound self-serving, but in point of fact, it is not. Poison Pen actually started a Poison Pen Foundation, which is an actual 501c3. Whoop, are we losing? Hold on. You okay? Are we back? Okay. It's an actual IRS approved charity foundation. And what we do, Harlan, is we use the money to help new authors primarily come to the store or go to conferences or do other things. But in the face of where we are at the moment, it may be possible for us to use that money to help set up more virtual programs and so forth. So that's the charity we picked. The bookstore makes absolutely no benefit from it. And I will remind everybody, the Poison Pen is a not-for-profit bookstore. So any money that comes in goes just to our staff and helps our customers. I've been doing this as a hobby, believe it or not, for 30 years. I can hardly imagine that. Anyway, I want to thank you so much, Harlan, for coming. It's always a joy to talk to you.
Guys, thanks, Barbara.
And I want to thank Hachette for supporting it. So, good night.
Good night, guys.